I think it's important to tell your kids, here's where we want to put our money. Here's where we see value in what we're going to spend. Here's what we want to share. Mom and dad are thinking about giving to these charities and these organizations with this percentage of what we made this month. What do you guys think? Is that the best use of the sharing dollars? Or should we go somewhere else with it? Who needs help? Smart money parenting. All right, everybody, welcome back to Smart Money Parenting. We've got an awesome topic that we're going to discuss today with my buddy Chad, one of the best financial wealth planners in the whole freaking universe. How's it going, buddy?
Pretty much. Going great, man. I'm excited to be here. Let's do this.
We're talking about how to be a financial role model to your kids. This is a topic that applies to the multi-millionaire entrepreneur as much as the single parent that's trying to make ends meet. These are the principles that you can do in your life when you talk to your kids, the things you can discuss with them, the things that you maybe don't want to discuss with them. We're going to go over all that today to become the best financial role model for your kids. I think the first thing I want to say, Chad, is you do not have to have it all perfect to be a role model, right?
No, definitely not.
Your kids learn no matter what in amazing ways, and you don't have to have it perfect to be a good role model for your kids. That's why it doesn't matter your salary. It doesn't matter your debt. It doesn't matter. I mean, everybody has hard things. They have amazing things. They have skills, but you can set your kids off on the right path with a few of the tips that we're going to be giving you today. That's what we want to make sure people understand.
And I would say kids are going to learn a lot by just watching you and listening to you. So how you talk about money, it really impacts them. And that could be just simple things of just like, what do you think money grows on trees? Like little things that you say, little phrases that will stick with them forever.
We can't afford this.
Yeah. Do you know how much this costs? Like, there's no chance we'd ever go. How dare you even talk about going to Disneyland or doing something like this or going on this kind of a trip? Like those, just think of the magnifying power of anything you say around money and pretend that statement is going to get written in your kids' financial blueprint, book for the rest of their life.
So, you know how hard I worked for this?
Right.
To do this for you spoiled, right? Like those conversations, you don't see it happening. And then if your significant other or your spouse conversations, like, why would you buy that? We don't have the money for that.
Right.
Oh, you forgot that bill again?
Just accidentally hearing that stuff from the other room. Has a major impact on confidence and stability and feelings of like security or insecurity, financial insecurity in the home. It's like being a role model is not just what you do. It's also just the little things you say or how you say it, your approach, your mindset, all that stuff goes into being a good financial role model. And if you're trying to be a smart money parent, like you really have to think about these things. You have to be a little bit intentional, I would say.
And also what you don't say matters. If you never talk about money with your kids, if you want to have them have a cushy, clean, easy, comfortable life, and you think the way to do that is to pay things for them and never discuss money conversations with them, you're setting them up for failure.
Where money is like an illusion. They don't even know, they don't see it. They don't know where it comes from. They don't know how to get it. And you just magically take care of everything. That's really not being a good financial role model. That's not being a smart money parent at all.
Tell them about the Disneyland balloon story.
Yeah, so as Disneyland is, I grew up in Orange County, California, right by Disneyland. And so Disneyland was a place we went to sometimes as a kid. I loved it. And so my wife and I took our kids, we have 5 kids, but we took our kids at Disneyland and it was extremely expensive, as you can imagine. 5 kids at Disneyland and paying for food there and just parking there, like everything cost a gazillion dollars, right? So we waited all the way. We trudged it out to the fireworks show at 9:30, and we were heading for the exits down Main Street. And as we're about to leave to get in the little tram that goes back to the parking lot, there's a guy, of course, he literally probably like walked right over towards us. He's like, oh, I got him. And he's got his glow in the dark Mickey Mouse balloons, big old bunch of them. And he walks right over to my little kids and he's holding the balloons. And one of my kids is like, Dad, can we get these balloons? You know, is it like a memory? Tugging on my heartstrings. Like, what am I supposed to say? Like, each balloon is like $17.95. I'm like, the last thing I'm doing right now is spending $100 on balloons after I just blew so much money today. And I was like, no, I don't. I think we already spent all our money for the day. Like, we already bought food, we bought lunch and dinner, we bought our tickets. And so my youngest kid was just like, we'll just go over to that money machine over there. And there was an ATM machine right there at the end of Main Street. And just go over to that money machine and get some free money out of there and then get us our balloons. And it was like, oh man, like if only it was that easy, right? Just go to the money machine because we need some money for balloons.
Put your plastic card in that machine and go get free money.
just stick your card in a little machine and push the buttons and get some money out. Like, that's how it works, right? So I think if, you know, even, and that's a kid that's like 4 years old. So we don't realize how much they're observing. It's not like I've ever talked about ATM machines when he was 4 years old, but in his mind, he sees a machine, you stick a card in, you punch buttons, and a lot of cash comes out. Right. It's that easy. Just like whatever you need, just go stick your card in that machine and get your cash.
Yep.
So like, we have to be good role models. And that was a teaching moment. You know, that was a time to have a conversation. And for the record, we did not buy the balloons. So just for the record. But go for it.
Yesterday we had this. I mean, it's funny how the more you and I talk about these things, the better we're getting as dads with the conversations. But yesterday we were driving back from Flagstaff, and we stopped at the gas station, and the kids had to go to the bathroom. The 4 and the 6-year-old, Reagan and Sawyer. So we go to the bathroom, and then they're walking by the 100 candies and
of course
pretzels and everything. You know, just they want everything. And normally, you know, before really going through this process, I would have been, all right, let's just get a snack on the way home. We got a 2-hour drive. And I go, all right, guys, here's the deal. You have been making money around the house with gigs, and you've got a bunch of quarters saved up. If you want to use those quarters, you can get a snack right now. You'll just give me those quarters when we get home. And their whole countenance changed right there. They're looking at the different candies. They're looking at the prices. Daddy, how many quarters is this $2 thing? It's 8. It's 8 quarters. You know how much work you did to get the 8 quarters at home? So Sawyer's looking at the $4, whatever they were, Gardettos. And he goes, this one's $2 for pretzels. How many quarters is that? I was like, 8. He goes, done. He grabs the pretzels.
Hilarious.
Reagan goes for the Gardettos because she has a bunch more. And they both made their decision. They ratcheted down from the higher level things. Wouldn't let him get candy, but they just wanted a snack. So they went up. Sawyer looks at the lady at the cashier and he goes, I'm paying for this. Puts it on the thing. He can't even reach the counter.
That's so cool.
She just starts laughing. And I'm like, okay, perfect. This is the kind of conversations that you want to start to have with your kids. So I know that there's some things parents are worried about talking about, right?
Sure.
Parents are worried about, I don't want to tell my kids how much money I make. You know, I don't want to tell them my net worth. I don't even know if I want to tell them how much money I have saved for their college, if that might make them more entitled. What about debt? Like my wife and I are in debt. What do we do here? Like, I don't want my kids to be terrified growing up in a fearful home. If we're, you know, barely making it by or struggling, there's certain things that are difficult to say, but where's that line? Like, give us some ideas. Let's like brainstorm. What are the right conversations to have with your kids along the way?
Yeah, one of the things I talk about in Smart Not Spoiled, the book, is that you want to be as financially transparent as you can with your kids, but that doesn't mean you have to go into depth about your own personal income. Like, my oldest is 18, my youngest is 7. We've got 3 teenagers at home right now. We'll talk about the cost of things, so they understand the environment and commerce and how much we're spending on different things, but we don't talk about like my business income we'll talk about investments though. We'll talk about actual investments, and we'll go through like, let's say here's a rental house. Here's how much I paid. Here's how much it's worth. Here's how much the tenant is paying in rent. Here's how much the mortgage costs. Here's the difference in the cash flow. Like my older kids can understand that stuff as teenagers. I don't think you have to be so transparent that you overshare and get too uncomfortable with stuff that's personal to you and your spouse. But I don't see the harm or the downside in teaching about the real cost of life. Like if you rent a place, this is how much our rent is. This is how much our electricity is. This is how much we pay for water. Our grocery bill is this much. Like if you do a survey and ask kids how much do they think their family's lifestyle expenses cost, their bills are per month, I guarantee you 90% of those kids are guessing way below the actual dollar amount. They just don't have a clue about how much their parents are spending on their lifestyle. So I think it's important to have these conversations, and being a smart money parent, being a role model, is part of that is just teaching them, like, this is the cost in the real world. So you've got to learn to earn money because it's not cheap. And you got inflation today in 2023 at 40-year highs. Stuff's getting more expensive at a much faster pace than in any other time in history. So you can't sit around and think, well, stuff's always going to cost the same amount and it's not really hard. I can just keep earning the same amount. Like you got to realize growth is required just to pay to keep up with the expenses going up. That's reality.
Yeah. Yep. And these are great conversations. Here's what mommy and daddy are thinking about investing in.
Right.
What's investing? Well, this is what we're going to do. We want to grow in the future. I think our next episode is going to be on investing, but I think it's important to tell your kids, here's where we want to put our money. Here's where we see value in what we're going to spend. Here's what we want to share. Mom and dad are thinking about giving to these charities and these organizations with this percentage of what we made this month. What do you guys think? Is that the best use of the sharing dollars, or should we go somewhere else with it? Who needs help? Bring your kids in to these conversations. I remember Chad Johnson, one of my close friends, one of your close friends. They've got 11 kids. He's one of the best strategic coaches out there. He told me one time that his friend had a kid graduate and they're in their 20s, and all of a sudden they've kind of abandoned all these things that they hoped that their kids would get, like abandoning, whether it was like faith and abandoning not caring about money at all. They're like, I don't get it. I think about money all the time. This is important for us. This is how I provide. This is how I create value in the world. And it's my reward for doing so. And my kid just doesn't do any of that stuff. And I had him do all the best schools. I had him do all the best sports. I had him do all the best camps. What's going on? And Chad was like, did you ever crack open a Bible at the dinner table and ask some questions to your kids? Did you ever talk to your kids about what you were investing in? Did you ever talk to your kids about where you guys gave? Did you ever have any of these conversations? And the guy just looked at him blankly, almost tears on his eyes. And he goes, no one ever told me this. So we can't outsource our parenting to the best cliques and groups and Joneses. You know what I mean?
You can't really hire out for this part of it. You got to be good role models in the home for sure.
Absolutely. And it doesn't matter how much money's left in your bank account at the end of the day. You can have great conversations with your kids about your groceries. You can have conversations with your kids about your subscriptions. I
think you can share mistakes and lessons learned. I think that's a great conversation. Say, hey, I'm not perfect. I want to share some things that I've learned over the years and let's talk about it so you don't make the same mistakes I did.
Yep. It's amazing what you can do if you just start having the conversations, right? Write yourself, if you're listening to this, write yourself like 3 goals that you want to talk to your kids about this week. And don't sit them down as like, hey, we're having a business family meeting, but just introduce it into everyday conversation. Make it the dinner topic. While you're driving home from school, talk about a specific thing. These kids are way smarter than we give them credit for.
That's a good point.
They're learning at a way faster pace than any generation that preceded them. The problem is what they're learning may or may not be what you want them to learn, right? They're getting more from their friends, from technology, from social media, from the internet, from the curriculums and public education system, like they're getting more information than you could possibly realize. And it's up to you to have these guiding conversations, these coach conversations, and just make it natural. Like, hey, buddy, let's set a goal of trying to save $20 on coupons on this grocery budget deal. Like, let's do it, right? Let's work as a family to start understanding these principles. My friend Jean, by the time his son David was 16 years old, he was covering half of his expenses. He figured out his car, he figured out expenses around the home. He's, a lot of the stuff that you and I talk about, helping our kids start to cover their own expenses and make their own money while they're still in your home, so they can make all the decisions,
right,
and all the mistakes, so that
right,
you can, in a safe environment, so that you guys can teach them. Money has to be learned in the practical. It is not a hypothetical thing.
Yeah, you can't do homework and just learn all this stuff. Like, you have to have these conversations and actually do it in practice to learn anything.
That's right. And it wouldn't hurt once in a while to talk about the value of different jobs and the value of different skills. Like, if kids are not equating what they're learning to the value that they can create in the world, then there's a disconnect. Education should be based on the value you create in the world. And unfortunately, there's just a giant common core out there of things that kids have to memorize, regurgitate, and then they forget. And our goal is to give our kids practical education that prepares them for the real world. And having these money conversations is one of the most foundational things you guys can do at home. And it's very easy. Whenever you're about to make or spend money, think about, what's a simple topic or a question I can ask my kids about this. And you don't do it to shame them. You don't do it to make them feel bad. You don't do it to show how good you are. You make it an educational conversation with them. And by the time you do 30 or 40 of those, your kids are light years ahead of their peers. Light years. Chad is experiencing this right now. His kids are on the older end. My kids are on the younger end. And I'm starting to see the fruits of it with a 6 and a 4-year-old, right? So it does not matter what age they are. You can start now. So write those 3 topics down. And if you want a bunch more of these topics, just keep listening to the pod. Like, listen to our show. We're going to give you great conversations to have with your kids all the way through. That's the point. I think we covered all this. We're good. Anything else, Chad?
Yeah, no, I just think it's important to just understand that whether you're being intentional or not, you're actually already being a role model for your kids about money. Like, they're picking up a lot just by watching and observing, and you're teaching them something. So I suggest, and Scott would agree with me, that you need to be intentional about what you want to teach them. And maybe it's a matter of, if you're a 2-parent household, maybe talk to each other and say, what are some valuable money lessons that we want our kids to take with them? Like, let's just talk about it and write some things down. What are some things we want to make sure that our kids know about money that gets passed down in our family? If you're a single parent household, fine, do it yourself. Here are 3 things I want to make sure my kids know about money. Here are mistakes I've made that I don't want my kids to repeat. And then you might even ask yourself a question: how could I be a better role model, a better smart money parent role model for my kids? What do they need to be learning at this age? And certainly we want to be here to help you as people who can be mentors. Gravy Stack obviously is going to have incredible resources for you. All the parents have so many things that they can tap into to help with this, but understand that being a role model for your kids is going to you're going to make a lasting impression regardless. So let's make it be one of success and values and things that you can teach your kids in word and in action and an example that will really last them a lifetime, because what you're doing today has impact that's going to last for generations, for decades. So make it count, make it intentional, be a smart money parent for real.
Yeah. Last thing I'll add to this is, finding a mentor is key for anybody. A kid needs it just as much as an adult needs it. And so there's somebody in your life that, I really respect the way this person handles money, the way this person raises their kids, the way this person operates. There's no greater joy for a successful person than to be able to pass on that legacy.
It's true.
Not to their kids, but to other people too, right? Like, I love coaching, hundreds and now thousands of other entrepreneurs. I love helping other parents succeed with their kids. Like, I do that for free, right? Like, that's the point. And so find somebody in your local community, someone you trust, have a dinner, have the families get together and talk about some of these conversations. Like, the more help, the better, right? I remember conversations of mentors and leaders when I was a kid, way more than my parents, but my parents had 1,000 times more experiences with me. And so they had the most lasting impact. So use other mentors and use other people to come in and coach your kids and talk about certain things together. But you got to remember, like Chad said, you're the role model. You can't get out of it. Like, there's no way out. You're going to either be a great one or a terrible one. And we want to try to help you be a great one. So those are the tips we got. Anything last you want to leave with, or should we just press stop?
Let's just press stop. I think we've given enough value here. So you are the role model. This is this is part of being a parent. This is on you. You can make a difference. We're here to help you. Smart Money Parenting Show. Like, subscribe, share it, comment below. Give us questions you need help on, and we can be a great resource for you. So thanks for watching.
There you go. smartmoneyparenting.com. Leave us a question. If we air it on the show, we'll give you some spiffs and swag to thank you. All right, guys, take care.
Thank you.
It takes more than money if you want to succeed. You gotta know what to do with it. You gotta take the lead. You gotta give them confidence. You gotta make them smart. If your kids are gonna thrive, now's the time to start. Smart Money Parenting.